Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. On this program, I want to talk about the worst sin of the end times. And remember, I am not a prophet, I am a co-prophet. In other words, this is not my opinion. When I reveal to you what will be the worst sin of the end times, this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of St. John the Apostle, as he describes in the book of Revelation. And, surprisingly, this worst sin is not one of the 10 Commandments, nor one of the 7 deadly sins, nor one of the sins I have listed on the wall behind me. In Revelation, St. John lists the worst sin ahead of idolatry, which is, of course, a violation of the first of the 10 Commandments. He lists the worst sin ahead of whoremongering, which is, of course, the same thing as adultery or fornication. He lists the worst sin ahead of unbelievers, which would include atheism. And the worst sin is listed ahead of murderers or liars. Again, 2 more sins which are violations of the 10 Commandments. St. John lists 2 more sins of these end times. The abominable, and abomination, I am sure he is referring to homosexuality, which the Bible refers to as an abomination, and sorcery, which of course would be witchcraft or Satanism. Both homosexuality and Satanism will be very powerful sins in these end times. But there is still one sin which St. John lists ahead of all these other sins. And that sin is fear. St. John says that all who practice these sins will go to hell, but ahead of all of them will be the fearful. Let me read exactly what St. John says in chapter 21, verse 8. But the fearful, and unbelievers, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone. Now why does St. John say that the fearful in the end times will go to hell? Nowhere else in the Bible is fear listed as such a terrible crime. In fact, the Bible says that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So what does St. John mean when he says the fearful will go to hell? The fearful will go to hell because they take the mark of the beast. Fear is what will drive people to take the Antichrist mark, name, and number. However, remember, it is not the Antichrist which causes everyone to take the mark. St. John writes that it is the false prophet who causes everyone to take the mark of the beast. That's because the false prophet appears in the first half of the tribulation, whereas the Antichrist appears in the second half of the tribulation. So you might ask, how can a religious leader cause you or I to take the mark of the beast? What kind of power must he have? We have to remember that opposition to the mark of the beast will be on a religious basis. It is only faithful Christians who will oppose taking the mark. Therefore, the one world system must enlist the false prophet to persuade his followers that taking the mark of the beast is not the same as the evil as described in the book of Revelation. The false prophet St. John also describes as wormwood, the great star which falls from heaven. A precursor of this great star is called Martin Luther. He is also listed in Revelation as a great star which falls from heaven. If we look at Luther, we will get a clue as to who the false prophet will be. Luther apostatized from his Catholic religion. And I think it is safe to assume that the false prophet will undoubtedly be a high-ranking Catholic official, possibly the Pope himself, who will apostatize from the Catholic faith and tell everyone that it is okay to take the mark of the beast. You might say, well, this is no problem. I am not going to let the Pope tell me what to do. But if all your Catholic friends and neighbors, and many of your Protestant neighbors as well, do take the mark, do take the chip under their skin, and only they will be able to get groceries at the supermarket, that's when fear will step into your life. The question then becomes, do you fear man more than you fear God? Because St. John makes it clear that if you do take the mark of the beast, you will go to hell. And as I say on most of these videos, remember, God is not trying to scare you with this prophecy, but to prepare you. And if you need more information, simply write to the address you see on your screen.